La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Hello and welcome to Don't Bury the Lead. We recap WWE Smackdown every Saturday after the bell. But tonight is a special night as we will not be recapping Smackdown and jumping right into cheap heat. My name is John Zindel. I'm joined by Dom Scarcella. Dom, go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
We're getting used to this new WWE schedule here with SmackDown being on USA as far as adjusting how we cover things. But hey, there's always time for some cheap heat on a Friday, isn't there?
Dom, I could not agree anymore.
So this
Really?
isn't our full show, but like cheap heat, it still kind of has a lead, right?
You know, Dom, we don't ever bury the lead.
No, we
could
don't.
be talking about anything right now. We could be talking politics, sports, cryptocurrency, NFTs,
Your favorite donuts.
your favorite donuts, your favorite Pokemon. You
I
know?
could go for a Crulla.
Okay,
It's a
go.
good donut. Very dunkable. It's got the, it's got the shape for it.
That's true. It's a very good dunking donut. But
Yeah,
listen,
so-
we don't ever bury the lead as we're currently doing as we speak.
John, don't bury the lead. Let's get right into cheap heat. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm going to go ahead, pull up the screen here. And the lead, as deserved as ever of a person to get the lead. Ricky, the jobber from WWE Smackdown. Dom, tell us a little bit about this story.
This story would not die. After Ricky Gibson, who is a wrestler on the indie circuit, made his appearance on SmackDown September 13th, the interwebbies just fell in love with Ricky. And really, how can you not? This comes to us from Ringside News. Apparently, Ricky, who is from the northwest of the U.S., let's see here. Gabe Sapolsky contacted him to work as an extra for WWE's Seattle and Portland shows. He took the opportunity to attend SmackDown, hoping for a chance to get noticed. And was he ever noticed? In fact, the local competitor on X, the former Twitter, started digging into his history. Ricky Gibson was the one who received a stunner from Kevin Owens when his original tag team partner Randy Orton showed up. But then let's talk about who he is. He's one half of the Midnight Heat with Eddie Pearl. They won tag team titles in DEFY, Championship Wrestling Hollywood, Prestige Wrestling, and POW, Pro Wrestling. So this guy's a good indie wrestler. They've competed in AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan Strong, all sorts of places. We saw when he came out that this guy seemed to know what he was doing.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
he seemed to understand pro wrestling, playing to the crowd, getting in character, going along with the flow, working with your other performers. This guy was fantastic. He's also the owner of Oregon Pro Wrestling School. So if you want to go learn from Ricky, you have a chance. If you're in the Oregon area or willing to travel to the Great Pacific Northwest there. What say you about all this extra information and just the interest in Ricky Gibson?
Dom, it kind of makes sense now that you're putting the pieces of the puzzle together, because he seemed a little too good at what he was doing. Whereas a lot of the jobbers oftentimes are people that have not wrestled too often. They're in a wrestling school. They get the opportunity to job. They jump all over it. And he's doing a little bit more than a normal jobber and had a great stage presence to himself. Regardless of that, I didn't know anything about his indie career, and now I can't get enough of it. And I'm hoping that they have some sort of plans for him in the future. And it doesn't have to be anything too crazy, but I feel like he's earned a roster spot, at least in NXT, right?
Some sort of cameo. You never know what his work schedule's like. But the WWE universe seems to be with you. Trending on X. We want Ricky. Trended on X. Justice for Ricky. Someone wants him to face Tonga Low at WrestleMania. Thank you, Ricky. Ricky from Seattle. Thank you. This apparently is backstage. Afterwards, Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. I mean, this was you are a future WWE champion from one of the accounts here. Ricky from Seattle. People liked him. He is on X, one half of the Midnight Heat, Ricky Gibson. They apparently, maybe, I don't know if it was off of this or it was already in the works. At the Roseland Theater in Portland, Oregon, they're facing FTR on September 29th.
Okay.
So, I mean, this is a great indie success story. Is it not? I mean, you've seen FTR. These guys are apparently, I mean, they're not big names, but Midnight Heat, they seem like guys who could get into the ring and be entertaining. If Ricky Gibson is any indication, is this going to be an entertaining match?
Yeah, FTR is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the best tag team in the world right now. Maybe for the last several years.
Okay.
Dax Harwood also sticks out. He can
Mhm.
easily be a champion and a big star. But, at the end of the day, I do want to talk about that clip you have with Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. Just really cool to see those guys kind of giving them a little bit of a rub. They don't really have to do this, right?
No.
And this is like a funny interaction between them about like how Randy smokes weed and then like Kevin doesn't know and he's all dopey. KO has been just an incredible character since we've started watching SmackDown again, and
Yes.
just continues to kind of keep doing what he does as himself, but like little different pivots. So really cool that they kind of gave him the rub that they don't have to, right?
Mm-hmm. This is great. It looks like here these are just three professionals. Like you wouldn't know that Ricky Gibson was just in town because he's local and they made him a jobber. Like he looks like he belongs here. Like he's a seasoned veteran. He's a pro. And you're right about Kevin Owens. Since he had a great run with Sami Zayn as tag team champions, that tremendous WrestleMania win over the Usos. But since they've brought him back as simply a singles wrestler on SmackDown, you're right. He's been a lot of fun, and he's that guy who doesn't need to be in the title picture to be effective. He doesn't need main event status to be effective. He's successfully, in a very Sami Zayn way, towing the line between lightheartedness and serious wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
This is fun stuff, and I wonder whose idea this all was. Like Randy Orton obviously was there the whole time. There's no way that they sent him out to wrestle and like Randy Orton was just going to show up inadvertently 10 minutes in. So whose idea was it to just give a local guy a chance here and have him interact with Kevin Owens out on TV? Whoever's idea it was, this was a home run for everybody involved. This is great advertising for the WWE.
Oh, for sure. And you know what the other thing is too? Like the match with Kevin Owens and Randy Orton versus, A-Town Down has been done so many times, and I was just not looking forward to it.
No.
And, you're like, we've seen it a bunch already. And then they were like, oh, let's get this jobber involved, make it more about him a little bit in the beginning.
Yep.
And, total home run. And I guess those are the kind of things that you like to see, where things happen holistically or seemingly holistically in the show that the crowd responded to, and then the WWE fans also responded to on the internet. It's like, yeah, this is perfect.
Here they are cutting promos for the FTR matchup on the 29th. If you can get out to Portland, Oregon, if you can get out to Ricky Gibson's wrestling school, you can meet him in person. But hey, even if you can't, Brainbuster Tees has you covered here with the Ricky T-shirt.
Oh man!
So,
wow, that's such great merch.
Yep.
Because nobody would even know except for like really under the radar people that would know. Okay, great. Like this is the Ricky guy from SmackDown, the jobber.
Oh, this is like secret handshake stuff.
Yeah.
Right? This is virtue signaling to all the right people, and it's a small group.
Yeah. We here at Don't Bury the Lead might be the biggest fans. But I think a lot of other people, I saw he had an interview, and I forget the podcast or live stream or wrestling entity that interviewed him, but
Busted Open Radio.
Yeah, who's pretty big.
Yep.
And I saw that they interviewed him, and I was like, oh, so cool that he got the opportunity. But it looks like he's been around and he's wrestling FTR in late September, so probably not his first time. And now that you're kind of bringing up the history of Ricky, it definitely is. It makes sense now. I'm putting the dots together. Like, oh, he's done this before. That's how he was so good.
This is something we've talked about before. That being on TV is great, but sometimes it's the guys who work the indies who learn how to develop their characters, learn how to work spontaneously, not totally scripted, learn how to interact with the crowd, even if you're not looking at the crowd and pointing all the time, just knowing how to do things in the ring that make the crowd interested in you and notice you. This guy had it all.
Yeah.
This was the perfect guy to bring out for this role, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Especially in the indies, we both know you're in front of like sometimes as little as 10 people.
Right.
And
could be the Dirty Dozen out there cheering you on.
It could be the Dirty Dozen that are out there. And 6 of the people haven't seen wrestling in 20 years since Stone Cold and all that. And everyone is just like sitting around, and you have to get them going, and you have to really drag it out of them. Whereas some of the wrestlers that are just used to or not experienced in the indies, they go out and there's 10,000 people, and they just have to go follow the script, follow the lines. Whereas if you're in the indies, you really have to figure it out, right?
Yeah, it's just a matter of getting your reps in, and getting your reps in an environment in which you're not, helicopter parented.
And
I think that just builds your muscle.
Totally, and
that's great.
It's a great observation, especially it makes sense that he has a wrestling school too, and it's actually a pretty good testament to his wrestling school that he was so good. And it's like, yeah, I would want to learn from that guy for sure.
I can imagine people in the Pacific Northwest who are thinking of getting into pro wrestling. You could do worse than learning from Ricky Gibson.
Yeah. So kudos to him.
Yeah. Here we go. Let's move on to people who don't really wrestle all that often and weren't on the indie scene. It's Logan Paul and Mr. Beast. They're teaming up to launch a competitor to Lunchables. I know what all of the words in that headline mean individual, but putting them all together, I didn't think I'd ever see that combination of words in a headline. Mr. Beast and Logan Paul team up to launch a competitor to Lunchables. You know Lunchables. You've heard of Lunchables, right? It's the prepackaged kind of geared towards little kids going to school or going out to day camp. It's the highly processed food. It's not the healthiest stuff for you, but people seem to like it, and it's convenient. Mr. Beast and Logan Paul, YouTube stars, social media stars, Mr. Beast, Logan Paul, and KSI, teaming up to tackle lunchtime hunger with something called Lunchly, a grab-and-go lunch option. It would feature Mr. Beast already has his Feastables chocolate bars, and Paul and KSI have Prime Beverage brand. And if they're going to combine chocolate bars and energy drinks, this is perhaps the worst thing you could possibly feed a kid and pretend it was real food.
I know Feastables at one point were supposed to be the healthier option, and he hated Hershey or whatever. And he was
Okay.
trying to put himself up, and he tried to make himself a better healthy option. And then eventually it tasted bad and the kids didn't like it. So he just made some Hershey-like bar, which has worse, nutritional facts than the Hershey bars. So Feastables has been kind of a nightmare and hasn't done well. But Logan Paul has so much going for, or excuse me, Mr. Beast has so much going for him on YouTube that it makes up for it, right?
It will launch with 3 options, all of which seem to fit neatly into the existing packaged lunch market: turkey stack'ems, pizza, and Fiesta nachos. I'm going nowhere near these. Now, then again, I am not their target audience. You are a parent. Would you feed this to your kid?
That's the really interesting thing here, is that I think they're misunderstanding the target market, which is the parents, not the kid. The parents give the kid the food. And are the kids going to be like, "Oh man, I really want to try this"? Like, I guess maybe, but then ultimately, have any of these really, outside of the cheap pop that they get, sustained? Like, are Feastables chocolates everywhere? Like, Prime Energy definitely is everywhere, but Feastable chocolates, I feel like, isn't a thing.
This seems like 2 guys with a lot of financial capital and an idea, and so they're going to get a chance to do this. And because of their success in other areas, places like The Hollywood Reporter, and The Hollywood Reporter was not the only one who does. I saw this article on plenty of mainstream sites. This wasn't just a YouTube-ish news outlet. It wasn't just wrestling outlets covering it. Hollywood Reporter, I think I saw something on the MSN network as well. Content creators and influencers have found that starting businesses outside of the content space can be incredibly lucrative, with many creators raising tens of millions of dollars to grow these upstart brands. So this is kind of what you do when you've been successful in one area. You try something in another area. I don't know. It's interesting because it's Logan Paul and it's Mr. Beast, and they are controversial figures. The famous / infamous, depending on how you view them. It seems like they're finding just a new market for their already existing products. I will not be buying this. Then again, I'm not 10 years old. I'm not sitting there in the grocery store with my mom or dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, whatever, going, Lunchly, I want that Lunchly.
Yes,
I saw it as an advertisement on my favorite YouTube cartoon that I'm watching or whatever.
I wonder, dude, when that is going to run out. When that, like, there was definitely people that were popular when you were a kid and they were perceived as cool. And then eventually you kind of get older and then you're out of that demographic. But there's not like this person that stays cool with 12. Like, that's always a rotating person, right?
Sure.
So
if you're going for an age group, then yes, it's new people entering that age group as other people leave it. Yes.
So are like 10-year-olds, 8-year-old, we're talking Gen Alpha kids, way like mid like Gen Alpha
Mhm.
children that are like, are they going to be like, yeah, Logan Paul and KSI, I love them, or are they going to be like, no, those are like those weird things that older kids like, like, are they? They can't stay in that target market forever, and they're like trying to stay in that target market like too long.
And I think that's why, for instance, Logan Paul transitioned to doing more, um, I guess, adult or mature is not perhaps the right word in media speak, but his podcast,
Yeah,
it's for adults.
right.
I mean, there's very little cursing. It's not, R-rated or anything for the most part. But
Mhm.
it's supposed to appeal to the issues that adults are talking about, the people that adults would be interested in. Logan Paul joining the WWE, which, while it still has a following amongst kids, especially in the era when they sort of transitioned away from so much of the attitude and the shock value stuff. It's for adults. You and I are adults. We enjoy pro wrestling.
No,
So Logan Paul,
the demo is 18 to 35 or 18 probably to 45, 50 now. I'd
18 to
say pro
35,
wrestling.
18 to 49, right? So
Yeah,
that's where wrestling, that's a big age group. That's adults. It's us. So Logan Paul is doing his best to get into industries and opportunities that appeal to adults and really making some of them. So even if this doesn't work out well, and maybe it will, maybe he's got enough social capital where his name and Mr. Beast's name and KSI's name are enough to corner a market. And you don't
yeah.
have to dominate it. You just it's an existing product you're already selling. Maybe this is just a new way to repackage it. But even if this fails, Logan Paul, at least, I don't know much about Mr. Beast, but Logan Paul seems to have pivoted to more adult geared content. I mean, he put on a jacket and interviewed Donald Trump a few months ago.
This is true. I don't know if you would say adult content would be politics because they're all clowns. So he fit right in.
The adult circus.
That's actually like politics is way more cringe than even pro wrestling. I was like, oh god.
Absolutely.
So
Pro wrestling is real. Politics is fake.
that's true. Yes, and that's a shorts, baby.
So there we go. Lunchables and whatnot. Let's move to a current wrestler who is in the ring quite a bit. That's Gunther, the current world heavyweight champion in the WWE. Kurt Angle was doing a virtual signing for KNS WrestleFest, and he was somehow asked about Gunther, and he had a brief interaction with him at Raw XXX, the 30th anniversary of Raw, when Gunther and the rest of Imperium came out to confront basically DX guys minus Billy Gunn, who was in the other promotion. But there they were sort of having a little confrontation there once this ad finishes. And that people asked him about it, and Kurt Angle was very complimentary. He said, I would put Gunther up there with Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit. I think he's really that good. In his prime, yes, I would have looked forward to a match with him in my prime. So really high praise for Gunther from Kurt Angle. Have you been watching wrestling long enough to be able to make that comparison that Kurt Angle was down to Eddie Guerrero in his prime and Chris Benoit in his prime? And do you think that's a fair comparison for the level of worker? Not maybe the style that he does, but the level of worker that Gunther is.
Well, I feel like there was a dark era of pro wrestling that I was just watching old YouTube clips, and I definitely watched Benoit and Eddie Guerrero in WCW in the cruiserweights, and that stuff was amazing.
Yep.
Like Eddie Guerrero versus Chris Jericho. If you don't stop watching now, but at some point, those that are watching and those are tuned in, Go check out Chris Benoit versus Eddie Guerrero. All that cruiserweight stuff at WCW was awesome.
Mhm.
Gunther was so fantastic when we were watching him on SmackDown. He
Yep.
blew away the entire show. So
Yep.
yeah, I'd agree. It's rare that you get someone that's head and shoulders better than everybody else on the roster at this point, and that's
Mhm.
where Gunther's right now.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who, when Gunther comes out for a match, you're thinking this can't possibly be bad.
No, it can only be really good to really good, you know?
Yep. Gunther was the guy we looked forward to on SmackDown because a Gunther match was going to be a great TV match. And we're wondering if there's any one person who delivers that anymore for SmackDown, or if it's just a combination of people. But yeah, Gunther was always someone to look forward to. This comes to us from WrestleZone, and they hat tipped post wrestling for the transcription of Angle's interview there. I will say that as well. He's not the style of Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit. And of course, those two guys had tragic personal lives and endings as well. But yeah, Gunther is that guy. We did a short for Cheap Heat just last week, where Gunther made the top 10 for PWI's 500 greatest wrestlers of the year. So he was in the PWI 500. Gunther is a big guy. Eddie and Benoit were smaller. Yes, the different style, not as tall, although Gunther is around the 250-pound mark. And I think Eddie Guerrero wrestled 230-ish. And Benoit, despite his height, was there as well. It's definitely a style mismatch and a height mismatch. Like if Gunther stood next to them, it'd be very different. So yes, that's why, John, when I posed the question to you, and Nick hit it on the head here, is I was saying just different styles, but just as that quality of a worker.
Hey, Nick, thanks so much for joining. I was on your show earlier today. It was a lot of fun, or tonight, rather. Really appreciate you hopping on here. And if you're watching this after the fact, and go check out Nick Teodore's show, which is the Nick Wrestling Club.
Yep, it's the Nick Wrestling Happy Hour.
Yes,
the Nick Club Happy Hour. Yep, it's Nick and Nicole, and they host almost a couple of hours on a Friday leading up to SmackDown, where they do recaps and some previews and sometimes some interviews there. I have caught a few of their shows as well and jumped into the chat, although I've never clicked in and been on camera with them. But yeah, it's interesting content out there. And if you're into that kind of pre-gaming, there you go. That's a good pre-game on a Friday. Thank you, Nick. All right, so that was Gunther. Let's go to someone else here. How about Charlotte Flair? It looks like she's not cleared medically yet, even though we've seen videos on her Instagram account of her rehabbing. And until she's cleared, they're not even preparing for her and writing her into any plans. This has got to be tough for her because she's working so hard, it seems, to get back in there. This comes to us from Clayton Lee on X. I also saw this report referenced on at least one pro wrestling news aggregator as well. We've talked about the women's division doesn't need Charlotte Flair to rescue it at the moment, but we'd still want to see Charlotte Flair as a part of it, especially since her husband, Andrade, is now part of WWE. So she's got to be itching to get back onto TV and traveling with the crew. Her injury, anybody out there, tell us in the chat, tell us in the comments, have you ever had to recover from a serious knee injury? What was it like? Did you work in a profession where your physical prowess was important, whether you were an athlete, whether you worked, say, construction or something else, where, now for the rest of your career, you're feeling the fact that you have a knee injury? Tell us in the chat, tell us in the comments. Charlotte apparently tore 3 different things in her knee on that freak accident in that match on SmackDown that we saw. It's got to be tough on her. She still wants to wrestle. She did not seem that she wanted her career to be over. We hope she makes it back. What say you, John? You've been in there and wrestled, and I'm sure you've wrestled with some aches and pains on the indie circuit. It's got to be tough to be so hurt that you can't do it.
Yeah. It's pretty wild because we had just seen some footage of Charlotte Flair getting around really well in the ring. So maybe there was a setback. That's my only guess. If this is true, I mean, this is a guy on Twitter.
Could be a rumor.
This is a guy on Twitter, so who knows? But if it's true, she must have re-aggravated something like that. Yeah, and she's getting older, and she's worked pretty hard her whole career, and she's been very physical and worked really hard. And we're not used to seeing the women really, like, there aren't a lot of women that have worked like they're working currently today. So you're going to see them having to take serious time off for injuries. And I mean, they've been killing themselves in kind of the women's revolution. They really had to prove themselves. So, this is kind of what's going to happen, right? And then
and we've talked about this with Asuka as well. It takes a while to recover from things. Thank you, Nick. Always welcome. Pre-gaming doesn't necessarily mean with drinks with alcohol. Just love for wrestling. Yes. Absolutely, yes. You don't have to bring the whole cooler of booze out there for the tailgate. Just getting you into the pro wrestling mindset and mood there as you gear up for some SmackDown on a Friday. Yes, excellent show. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah. We have showed enough clips of people making fools of themselves, specifically Hulk Hogan, when they've had too many on the mic, to know that when we have our show, I can't be having a lot of booze. I can have a beer, maybe 2, but you can't be going crazy, right?
I was an indie musician. I had a rule when I was performing: no alcohol, no caffeine.
Yeah.
One slows you down, one speeds you up. Neither one of those is a good idea.
Yeah.
If you're in the audience, sure. Maybe you have a beer. You're not the driver. You have a few beers. You like your espressos, your coffees, your high octane beverages there. That's fine. You're just kind of enjoying the show. But to perform and to have your motor skills functioning where you want them to, you don't want things that numb you, and you don't want things that fool you into thinking you want to go faster. So, yes.
Yeah, so speaking of faster here, Charlotte Flair not recovering as fast as we had anticipated.
Not recovering as fast as we indicated. And let's move to someone else from that great women's division we were talking about. Jade Cargill, someone who can compare AEW to WWE, because she was a star and a champion in AEW in their singles division. She has been a tag team champion in WWE. It appears to be that she's throwing out the first pitch at a baseball game in this picture here. They cut off where her finger and the ball would be. This is from Yardbarker. You found this and sent this to me. This was something Jade Cargill was saying. The travel is brutal in WWE. That's the biggest difference she saw between WWE and AEW, because WWE does more live dates that don't make it to TV than AEW does. And apparently this has become known to TKO president Mark Shapiro and the rest of TKO C-suite. They're looking at shaving around 50 live events off of WWE's calendar next year. They've already gone from like 300 down to 250 in the Vince McMahon era. They're now looking to go down to about 200. That's more like 4 a week. That's Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and one other. So it's your premium live event when it's premium live event weekend. If not, it's only maybe one other house show that would not be televised. So this is really bringing it down. What was 300 last year, or roughly 250 this year, next year would be close to 200. It should not affect TV for the most part, but it will affect those who like to go down to the Coliseum because, WWE comes to town once a year. They make their circuit. And apparently it's going to affect the great wrestlers and the rest of the crew like Jade Cargill, for whom the travel is very difficult. She has a point. The fact that we travel internationally, then we have to turn around. People have to go to Raw. People over in Europe, like 2 days later after that premium live event, they're on Raw. They've got to reset their body clocks by 6-7 hours, depending on where it is.
Yeah.
That's difficult. I would say that the biggest challenge is the travel, not taking the bumps. Yes, you go in the ring. Yes, all this stuff, but travel is the biggest part of it all. What say you about that comment and about this related revelation that WWE, perhaps to take care of the bottom line and the talent, might be cutting back on some of the travel?
Just a personal anecdote here, but I used to travel a good amount for a job I used to have, and I would be on the road not too often, but when I was on the road for it'd be like a February, a couple weeks in a row, and we'd be flying and flying and flying and hotels and hotels. It really messes with your psyche because you're just you dehydrate on the plane, you land, you get in the hotel, you're bored, then you're up and you're up for intense work. So it's one of those things where I actually totally know not nearly as much as the pro wrestlers have to deal with it, but especially that excessive travel when they're like, oh, hey, fly to Europe, fly back, be on Raw. It's like, what? That's just a brutal stretch. And there's only so many, when you have those long flights like that to Europe, there's only so much TV you can watch after an hour or two before you're like, get me off this plane,
That's why you want to be on a flight with internet connection, so you can go to Don't Bury the Lead, a wrestling channel on YouTube. Check out not only the archive of these great full live stream shows, but also that's where we have the edited clips that you make, John, that some of them have done really well with our audience, and also the shorts. Those are the under 60-second content pieces there. You can also check in on us live if you see us live streaming. That's what this is for. Don't watch TV. Watch Don't Bury the Lead.
If I only had Don't Bury the Lead in an internet connection, it would have been a lot easier. And we have some more chat comments here I wanted to bring up, Dom.
Excellent. What could be the women's division 18 months from now? Rhea, if Becky returns, Charlotte returns. That would involve a couple of returning stars. It would involve Jade now being a singles competitor. So Asuka returning as well. Yeah.
Jordynne Grace, it was really good in the Royal Rumble.
Yes, and she's been good in those crossovers they've been doing between TNA and NXT.
Mm-hmm. She was really good. At least the only time I don't really watch NXT, so there's just the only time I've seen her is the Royal Rumble. I feel like the women's division's a bit more stacked than the men's, and we always kind of comment on that, like, hey, the women's WWE division, you can make a big argument that it's the best division of wrestling in the world.
Almost, right? I'm trying to think, and yeah, there's a lot of stars who can really wrestle. This week on Raw, and I went over to Hulu to catch it the next day on Raw because Io Sky and Bianca Belair had a one-on-one match that was fantastic. And it was just middle of the show Raw, but there was no interference. There was no foreign objects, no ref bumps. Just a great pro wrestling match between Io Sky and Bianca Belair. And it was probably the match of the night.
Yeah,
on
for
Raw.
sure.
And it was just in the middle of the show. And it was there. And fantastic stuff. Jade Cargill was ringside for that, as was Kairi Sane with their tag team partners. So yeah, the women's division, it's a lot of fun to watch. They're great athletes, and they let them show their athletic ability. You've brought up how women are athletic in different ways than men. It's not the power game for the women, but it is the flexibility.
Yeah.
They have excellent flexibility, like Charlotte Flair doing that figure 8, which is the bridging figure 4. We see a lot of the gymnastics from the women wrestlers. Some of the flexibility with a lot of their bridging suplexes look fantastic.
Right,
Like,
because they can.
I would
actually
hurt
get over.
myself.
Yeah, because the guys can just be big and strong and slam each other, but the
Sure.
women can do more unique things, especially with different submissions and holds. They can
Sure.
wrench their bodies in crazy ways because they play to their strengths, and it's working out for them.
Yeah, if you've seen like Asuka and Io Sky wrestle that kind of grappling reversal submission style, you've seen Bianca Belair do that kind of thing as well. Charlotte Flair showed that she could do it even as a taller wrestler. Rhea Ripley, they're all somewhat capable of doing stuff like that. I mean, Liv Morgan surprised us with this fantastic move she got from I think a Japanese wrestler in that what was it, that mixed tag match they had
Yeah.
recently on a premium live event, where
Right.
she pulled out this fantastic flipping crucifix slam onto Rhea Ripley for a pinning combination. It's like the women are fantastic athletes, and the WWE lets them show it. So good for that entire division there. Let's talk some AEW. This also comes to us from WrestleZone. That's Big Bill there. I know a little bit about Big Bill because I know a little bit about AEW. You've probably watched him a lot more than I am. He's sort of celebrating being 5 years sober here. Apparently, he collapsed during an event in 2019, was taken to a hospital for a seizure caused by excessive drinking. And this is not a guy who was elderly. This is a guy who's supposed to be in the prime of his life. This happened to him. It was a wake-up call for the former WWE superstar who quit drinking, eventually returned to the ring with TNA before joining AEW in 2022. He was on another fairly mainstreamy show here, Barstool Wrestling, from the Barstool Sports umbrella there. Fightful helped with the transcription here, but what do you say here about Big Bill? You've seen him wrestle, and what's he like as a worker, as a performer?
Yeah. As far as Big Bill's concerned, it's pretty cool to see him kind of rebound. I know he got fired from WWE when they were really pushing him, and it looked like he was the next top star that they were going to have, and he got fired. And at the end of the day, he, they ended up firing him. He went down to House of Hardcore, I think it was. Maybe that was it, with Shane Douglas and Tommy Dreamer, maybe.
Okay.
Tommy Dreamer was like, Big Bill's in the hospital. It's not drug related. And then everybody was like, what? And then it was like, yeah, it's drug related. So I guess he was having seizures and stuff like that, and was like a functioning alcoholic at the time. But you could see in his body that he's just like way more cut up. And he had like a really emotional promo in the indies about how he's like trying to get back into wrestling, trying to get everything going back in his life. But 5 years sober is nothing to sneeze at. That's really impressive. And he's been pretty good at within AEW. He's actually been like a pretty good fit there. And I was a little worried when they brought him in because I was like, oh God, I remember him as Big Cass. But
okay,
they just make him, he just wears like a pants with a big cowboy belt buckle. And it's like, oh, it's much like jeans with a big cowboy belt buckle.
Jeans and yes.
Okay,
yes.
He's just like a cowboy guy. That makes sense.
Okay, it works, and he is, of course, a taller wrestler. He's one of the almost giants, if you want to put him in that category, right?
That's why Vince loved him. That's why he's getting the big push from them at one point.
There you go, right? He's a big guy.
He was made for Vince.
I have a very good life. I have my fiance who I'm getting married to in December. I love her family. I have our dogs. I have a second chance at life. I I got to put 100% into everything I'm doing. I don't complain. Put your head down, work hard, do what you're told. Eventually, it's going to pay off. Good for him getting his life back together, getting his career back together. So tell us in the chat, tell us in the comments. Do you remember Big Bill from any of his previous go-rounds in WWE and TNA on the indie circuit? What do you think of Big Bill? How is he wrestling in AEW? Did you know about some of the things he's been battling out of the ring?
Yeah, and we also have some more chats coming through here, Dom.
I love this. 4 draft picks for a brand. 1 man, 1 woman, 1 tag team. Who do you pick from Raw and SmackDown?
Ooh.
LA Knight. Oh, 1 woman wrestler, only 1. Rhea Ripley. 1 tag team. Wow. Just one. It's like the Raw. It's like the WWE draft. LA Knight, Rhea Ripley, and wow. See, I'm thinking, could I make my own tag team as a way of getting 2 other wrestlers on board?
Yeah, because it's the tag. It actually is. It's. I'm thinking about the tag teams. There aren't really great tag teams right now.
No,
floating
there's
around.
not. No, the title holders are the Bloodline, who could be any of a couple of different combinations. It's also, I think, Judgment Day has the other belts, which is, again, it's a combination thing. Everybody's doing Freebird rules, and on the women's side, it's 2 women, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, who they're just keeping them together because they're waiting for Jade to be good enough as a singles push.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's not a lot of there's no FTR.
Yeah, they don't really give a lot of love to the tag teams, but
It's not the Usos anymore.
Yeah, it's not the Usos who were the tag team.
Yeah, so that's a good one for tag team. If I could, if Asuka returns and she and Io Sky form a tag team, which I almost want to happen, that could be just gold. I think Kairi Sane's just a little too small, although she's excellent in the ring. She bumps and sells like crazy. She's currently kind of hurt because she dove out of the ring at wrestlers near the announce table and basically head butted the announce table, the corner of it, with her eye.
Ooh.
So so she had a big old over her left eye, just black and blue and everything. She finished the match too. So she can definitely move in there and bump, but I think she's just a little too small. But yeah, maybe the Kabuki Warriors, any combination of them would be a great tag team.
That's probably the best one I can think of too. I'll give you mine.
Sure.
1 man, Gunther.
1
woman, Tiffany Stratton.
Oh yes, up and comer. There we go.
I think she is fantastic.
Yep.
And I think that she's really over this year. At first, when I looked at her, I was like, "Oh, give me a break." And eventually, I was looking at her, and I was like, "Actually, I kind of like this character and the gimmick and the attitude." My wife actually said that she does not like Tiffany Stratton at all because of the way she looks. She thinks it's like a step back with like the diva look kind of to that, versus like Rhea Ripley is more like, as a woman, she's like more like, oh, Rhea Ripley, Bailey, Sasha Banks, aka Mercedes Moné, were like more like lovable.
Yeah.
And then for her, she's like, oh, Tiffany Stratton's just for the male gaze. That's what she was saying earlier tonight.
She's doing the princess thing. That's her gimmick right now.
But I said no, it's more than that. You don't get it. And then the tag team, no, I said no. I know that's what it looks like in the surface, but it's deeper than that.
Okie doke.
I just mansplained her. That's what you got to do, Tom. And then as far as a tag team, I have one for you.
Okay.
The Lucha Bros.
Who are the Lucha Bros?
The Ray Phoenix and Penta.
The new
Lu-
signings.
Yeah. The Lucha
Okay.
Bros are from AEW, and they are like the two luchadors, and they are
Yes.
they're both fantastic. When
Okay.
you're gonna honestly, I hope they go to SmackDown. You got to see them. They're
All
both.
right.
I can't wait for them to be in WWE. Really.
That's a great pick. And Tiffany Stratton, by the way, that's a franchise cornerstone pick. Like if we
Yeah.
were, Nick didn't tell us this in the chat, but if you got to pick for the next 10 years, then yeah,
Exactly.
right? Isn't Tiffany Stratton, because she's still in her 20s, she is, you build around her for the next 10 years.
You
right?
could build around her, and they're currently doing it right now. She's making Nia Jax better,
Yep.
and everything she's a part of, she improves. So I like her.
Yep. And yes, I will say your wife is right in a sense that she's kind of being saddled with this princess gimmick for a little bit, where she's going a little more diva than she normally would.
Yeah.
Like she's almost in Chelsea Green territory here with it.
Yes.
This I think is going to be temporary for her. She doesn't need that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, if you watch her in the ring, she's stiff as a board.
Right.
You know, she's killing people.
The Alabama Slam is brutal.
Yeah. Right.
Who did she do that on in the tables, ladder, and chair match? Was it Naomi?
Naomi.
She Alabama slammed her on the ladder.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh my goodness. Save that receipt.
I know.
You know, holy mackerel.
She just took her up and bashed her head up against a ladder. I was like, wow.
It's the complete opposite of Io Sky doing the Falcon Arrow to what was it, Zoe Stark on the ladder, and Io taking the entire brunt of it.
Yeah, and it was and actually, when you looked at it, it was a lot smoother than you would think. Like it was actually executed really well. It was high risk, but like they executed it well versus just slamming Naomi Alabama Slam style back of the head into the ladder. You're like, whoa.
I'm trying to think, was it Naomi or was it Lyra Valkyrie? It was one of them. It was one of these other very good performing, but oh my goodness, to be on the end of an Alabama Slam on a ladder.
Yeah, I think it was Naomi.
Like, for crying out loud. Oh boy. But yes, Tiffany Stratton, she works stiff. I wonder if other people are kind of giving it to her as well, like working a little stiff with her in there, you know, just to see if she's like an old school wrestler and can take it.
Mhm.
Because sometimes that really works, because you know you start hearing the slaps of the forearms, you know, and things like that, and it looks like they're really performing for you rather than kind of like, you know, pulling all their punches so gingerly and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, I like that. Thank you, Nick, for that's some good cheap heat there.
That is really good cheap heat. That's what we're looking for.
That is good, cheapy. Let's talk about somebody else who's in a tag team that neither one of us selected for our draft. It's Grayson Waller. He is going to wrestle for sort of his hometown Australian wrestling here. He will be at Pro Wrestling Australia's grand final in Sydney mid-October. He's cutting a promo on a guy here, apparently Perfect Jimmy, Jimmy Townsend. This is cool that WWE allows their talent to do this. They don't see PWA as a direct competitor on their level. So this is like the arrangement with TNA. This is like letting some of their stars do stuff in Japan more. This is pretty cool. And Grayson Waller, I have no idea if he's going to be the heel or the baby face in this matchup here, but what do you think of Grayson Waller getting a chance to go back to his home country and wrestle one-on-one?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it's cool that he can kind of go back and get out of this kind of like jobber role he's in a little bit, probably wrestle a real good match and hopefully go over.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's cool that the WWE is finally letting people do other events in different venues. Like, I know this is obviously a step down from WWE, but it is going to be cool that he's going to be able to display a little bit more of what he has now in Australia, like in a long match, versus what he would typically be able to get on SmackDown right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's just not a lot of room at the top in the mid card right now for him.
No, he's making the most of his time on TV. The fact that he and Austin Theory keep getting run out there means that somebody likes them. Somebody in the back has to have confidence in these guys to keep putting them out there on TV. So he's not doing a bad job. It's just like what you're saying. It may be just really difficult to climb the ladder there. So maybe he gets a chance to main event down there in Australia. And in a singles match, he's giving you all the attitude here. So I think maybe he's still going to be the heel against Jimmy Townsend. Let's click over here and see who Perfect Jimmy is. Jimmy Townsend. Let's bring up him here. Jimmy Townsend, pro wrestler, the Thief. Okay, he looks like he's got a belt, at least in his profile picture here. So this sounds like it's main event stuff here. The Thief, Jimmy Townsend. I like this. This is good for Grayson Waller, as long as they're not going to put him in the ring with fake trees and stuff.
Yes, anytime he's not doing the Grayson Waller effect and he's wrestling, it's always pretty effective.
He's better at that than at the talk show host stuff.
Yeah, the talk show host thing really almost killed his career.
Almost. There you go. All right, and that is all I got for Cheap Heat. It's unseasonably warm. It's unfathomably frugal. It's oh, wait a minute. Happy birthday to the Bonsall Street Bomber from New Jersey Championship Wrestling.
Look at that.
A lovable character from NJCW, the indie circuit here in Southern New Jersey. He was not only a longtime performer there, he rose to the top of the promotion. There is the Bonsall Street Bomber atop a ladder that was probably used in that match, wearing proudly that NJCW Singles Championship belt there. Happy birthday this weekend to the Bonsall Street Bomber. So you get a little birthday wishes instead of a full Don't Bury the Lead recap this weekend. But hey, those are the breaks, and I think it's a fair trade-off. Happy birthday to the Bomber.
Thank you, Dom. Look at that. Wow. Yes. The glory days of a disgusting warehouse and wrestling within it. And I was talking to Nick, and I was like, yeah, I wrestled in the Indies. This is it, Nick. This is it.
There you go.
I didn't make it
up.
up.
Bonsall Street Bomber, a champion, a long-running champion, by the way, also. It was a fantastic title reign. That second title reign that the Bonsall Street Bomber had was fantastic. I also have to say that the Bonsall Street Bomber, an early interview I did as Doc Lester with the Bonsall Street Bomber and Diamond Dale Scruggs, was probably one of my favorite interviews. It was the Bonsall Street Bomber is 98.6% liquid, and that's why he's so pliable. Back during the Bombers' drinking days.
I remember that so vividly because Fran got us together and was like, hey, you need to do like an interview. And we're like, okay, well, and it's just like, go. And it was like completely improv.
Yep.
On the fly, go. And you're asking about winning. And I was like, okay, I got to be mean to him. So I'm like, oh, get out of here. And then he's like, listen,
I don't like your smile.
I don't like your, and Diamond Scrolls was like, I'll take care of it. And then he does the interview. And then you kind of like, are like, we're both kind of corpsing the whole time. And we're both like this because we're corpsing. And it was a lot of fun. And I know it ended up being like great. It actually came out awesome.
I think that was when the Bomber won Mega Brawl to earn a title shot.
Yeah. It's interesting. I have
The first Mega Brawl win, right?
I gotta give you a link to this. I know we're kind of Italian goodbying right now, but Steve made uh, not a thesaurus, but like an appendix or something of like it's got the record of every
Oh,
show
wow.
and who won and how long it was, and then like a little picture from it. I'll send you a link after we're done, but
I want to see that. That is some NJCW lore there.
I got it from that. It was $5 on Amazon, so for the hard
Perfect.
copy.
I love it. I love it. Oh, I'm disappointed I did not know about this sooner.
I didn't know about it either, and I just saw him the other day, and he sent me the link for it. He's like, "Oh, I made this. I put it on Amazon." He just hasn't posted it on the internet, which is
Okay.
yeah.
Which is like it's 2024. Posted on the internet there.
just make an update.
We love it there. Another friend of ours from music and from pro wrestling. We're all the Insane Clown Posse. We're all involved in wrestling and music.
Right.
Make it somehow. I do remember this interview. It was after you guys were corpsing with your whole the human body is liquid, it makes him so pliable. You guys walked off. And I remember I looked right into the camera and I said, "He's 98.6% liquid and he's coming for a title shot."
Yes. Oh
And
man.
that was the end of it. And I think it was after that I kind of learned how to do interviews with you guys, where I was like, okay, I should not be much of a character, because at that point I was trying to be a character as the commentator, like, because all the pro wrestling commentators are part of the show. I was like, no, I'm not going to be part of the show. I'm going to be the straight man and let these guys do it. And so like that was, so it wound up being an interview I remember for it being so wonderful.
Not having it scripted too.
Not having it scripted
was like you just asked a question like a normal interview.
Yep.
And then you asked the question and I would answer it and that
Yep.
would be it. It's
Yep.
so simple.
It's so simple. And I like followed up to what you guys were saying. It was like a real conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It was like what would happen after, a baseball game. You're in the Phillies locker room and you got the reporters asking you questions. What was it like out there? Well, take me through this key play. What did you call in that situation to, get that big strikeout? What were you thinking? Whatever. Yeah, it worked like it worked like a real sport. So wonderful there. That was the cheap-heatiest thing I could think of to end this live stream and this segment here. Kind of like a quasi-Italian goodbye for Cheap Heat. Happy birthday, champ. Happy birthday, my friend. And good to show this fantastic picture.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. That's really cool. And, listen, Cheap Heat's over, but that does not mean that we're not doing an Italian goodbye.
Sure.
I'll go.
Although we should kind of wrap it up. It's been a long Cheap Heat.
It has been a long Cheap Heat here. And let's see, Dom.
Anybody still joining us in the live stream? If you're joining us from Twitter, if you're joining us from Twitch, thank you very much for finding us on these platforms. We want you to know that the mother load of our content is over on YouTube. Search for Don't Bury the Lead, a wrestling channel over on YouTube. That's where you get the recorded archives of all of these live streams, so you can watch them again and again. Subscribe to us. There's also a join option there because we have hit the first tier of YouTube partnership. You can join and really donate to the cause there. And of course, you can watch the edited video clips that John makes, the shorts, all of that content. Comment. Tell us what you think of the stuff there in the comments. If you're live streaming with us in the chats, we do read them. Occasionally, depending on the volume of stuff we get, we will even answer them, but we appreciate all of them. Keep them YouTube appropriate for us. We don't want strikes on the channel. Thank you.
Yes. Please.
And it looks like we got another live chat here from Nick from the Nick Club Wrestling Happy Hour, which you can also find on YouTube there. We all forget Io is phenomenal and a former women's champ. There you go. She should win over other top women. Yes. Nick, did you happen to see the match between her and Bianca Belair? I thought it was a great match this Monday on Raw. The only thing I did not like about it was the very end of it, where yes, Io winds up winning the match. They have her look stunned that she won the match, and I'm thinking, she's a women's world champion and a tag team champion. She should not look stunned that she won any match ever, right? Because she is that good. And she's been that good in her WWE career. She had the singles title up until Bayley took it from her at WrestleMania. She's had tag team belts as well with Damage Control. So yes, Io is phenomenal and a former women's champ. She should win over other top women. Yeah, I thought that was a great match on Raw, and I thought it was a great to have her win over Bianca, and how she did it as well. She did not overpower Bianca, because that would kind of be silly. She out wrestled her Io Sky style. It was fantastic. It was one of those, you're watching a great match when you're totally into the match and nobody's hitting their like signature finishing moves. Like the finish happens without any of the 5 moves of doom, like going in order, like, okay, you do this, then you do this, then you do this, and that's the pinfall. Nope. It was just a really cool match. So thank you very much, Nick, for that. Yes.
Yeah. I saw that, and I gotta say, Dom and I love Io. I think that's been like our thing for a while.
Mhm.
So
It's been good watching her grow. She was in a tag team for a while, and you could see that she had potential. And then they gave her a singles push, and the question was, okay, can she pull off a singles push? And then we were both really pleased, I think, to see her pull it. Like, we don't want to see people fail.
Was she in Damage Control?
She was in Damage Control. It was her and Dakota Kai were the tag champs for a long time.
And the thing with Damage Control was, you were like, they're pretty good, and I just didn't see it at the time when they were a tag team. But then once Io started to get that Puerto Rico show, specifically when she was at the Puerto Rico show, they're chanting Io.
Yes. And Bianca Belair was looking really confused.
That was so great, because Bianca just feels like she needed a heel turn, but now I think she's just Jade Cargill's babysitter to make sure like she's good.
Yep.
She's probably getting paid some sort of crazy dollar amount for the Hulu show and taking care of Jade. They're probably like, wow, yeah, here's a bag.
And she's wrestling a lot because they both got the belts. They're sending Jade and Bianca, and this could be part of what Jade was talking about with the travel schedule, is since the women's tag team division only has one set of belts, Bianca and Jade appear on both of the major brands. So they've been doing Raws and SmackDowns.
Wow, I didn't know that she's been on Raw too.
Yep, the Io Bianca match was on Raw this past Monday. There's a couple of recent suggestions I have for people. Go watch the SmackDown the night before Bash in Berlin, the Berlin Brawl, to see Ludwig Kaiser come out and answer LA Knight's Open Challenge, and watch that interaction and the response from the crowd, and watch Ludwig Kaiser, like this guy you only know from bottom card stuff.
Is it on YouTube?
I don't know if the full match is on YouTube, but if you can find SmackDown online, I don't know if Peacock has that episode available yet. It's 3 weeks old at this point, maybe 2 or 3 weeks old. I don't know if it's available yet, but if you can find the full experience of Kaiser answering the challenge and then having the match, watch that. And if you can go back to this Monday and watch Bianca Belair, Io Sky, what a great TV match. Fast paced. They didn't have, 20 minutes at a pay-per-view. So there was no like standing around and staring at each other. Like, they went quick. And it was like, headlock takeovers early, scissor reversals, all sorts of stuff, each of them kind of doing the moves to each other, and then like the respect. fast-paced match. No interference, no ref bumps, no foreign objects. It just turned into just a great wrestling match. So I will make those 2 recommendations to people. Io Bianca from the most recent Raw, LA Knight Ludwig Kaiser from the night before Bash in Berlin on SmackDown.
There is a really good video that the NFL just put up today that's wrestling related. And it's titled 24 Hours with Tony Khan. And it goes through the draft process of him wearing the neck brace at the draft.
Kayfabe, yes!
And he's got the neck brace on the whole time. He keeps it kayfabe the whole time. And they end up going to a show too. And he's backstage at the show. He's calling the show, and they show him with the neck brace calling the show. And yeah, it's actually kind of funny the way that they do it all, because it's the NFL and it's really well done, like NFL Network stuff, like NFL Films stuff. But it's
production value.
Yeah, the production value is like through the roof, and it's NFL centric. So he walks into the draft room and he daps up Doug Peterson, who's the coach there. He they fist bump, and he sits down, and he has this big sheet of paper, and he's like crossing the people off. And then it shows him calling all the free agents that are undrafted. He's like, these are the gems, and he's going through the list, calling them. He's got the neck brace on the whole time as he's calling them.
I love it.
And it's very funny. Tony Storm's in it too, and they switch her gimmick to be black and white when she talks. And he's like, "Oh, Anthony, he works so hard, but he hurts his neck. He hurts his neck. He should take a day off." But I never see him sleep. No, I never see him sleep. She calls him Anthony.
Anthony the whole time, right? Yes. Very proper upper crust British.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and where is that available?
It's on YouTube, and it's called 24 Hours with Tony Khan. And it's
okay.
The NFL YouTube released it today.
All right, very good.
So, yeah, Dom.
Excellent. We've been live streaming almost as if we recapped the show. This is what happens when I can't watch SmackDown because I don't have TV service, and they moved it off of something that I can watch on the interwebbies.
Tell us in the chat. Tell us in the comments, how do you watch SmackDown for not some absorbent amount of money?
Can you do it? Has the change from Fox to USA affected your viewing habits as it has mine? I don't know if it's affected your viewing habits, John, but it's affected the Don't Bury the Lead production schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So there we are. Hey, it's been a great cheap heat and a little cheap goodbye there as well. I have no other news items or anything else to share. How's that live chat going? Anything we missed in there?
No, Dom, I think we're good.
Thank you, Nick, from the Nick Club Wrestling Happy Hour. Check him out on YouTube for all the great contributions today and the good questions.
Yeah. So, and Dom, I think, we have 2 other videos out there. We're going to see how they produce. The Logan Paul video continues to carry the channel. And I think our next big benchmark is 900 subscribers, which we're pushing toward as hard as we can. So if you're right now watching the show, be sure to subscribe. It helps out our channel a ton. We're about 180 subscribers away from full-on monetization. So that's going to be a really big deal for us. So we need 1,000 subscribers. We need 4,000 watch hours. The watch hours we're close, but we'll get there. It dropped down to 3,200 once the MJF video went away, but that's not that big of a deal because the Logan Paul video has been growing and keeping us. So
yes.
I think we'll get there, Dom.
That's the one when Dominic Mysterio went on Logan Paul's Impulsive podcast. Yes, look for that video at our channel. We've also got one out just yesterday, September 19th, on Ricky.
On Ricky, baby. Yeah.
Ricky from SmackDown. Ricky Gibson, who runs a wrestling school in Oregon and is part of the Midnight Heat. And we'll be taking on FTR on September 29th, apparently. So all best to Ricky. Yes, we've got a video on Ricky. We've got all sorts of stuff on there. We've got shorts. We've got edited clips. There's you can always look back at the best of 2023 playlist you put together.
Mhm.
And I got to tell you, the best of 2024 playlist needs some updates.
Yeah, I know. I do have to. That'll be my homework tonight.
We've had some good content recently.
There's
The best of 2024 lists could
I've
use some. There you go.
Our 42,000 view Logan Paul video I don't have on there, which is crazy. Yeah.
It snuck up on us. And I believe it is over 43,000, closer to 44,000 at the moment.
44,000. Unbelievable. It is way on our way. Most watch hours for any video that we've made. It passed the MJF video, which really was just a video of MJF. This is a video with us in it, and you could see in the comments. Oh my word! Did you see the comments?
There's almost 200 comments on it.
It's a Pikachu hat. No, because I said no. It's not a Pikachu hat because I said it was a Pikachu hat, but it was a hat from Toy Story. Most of the comments, so many of the comments are like, "Yo, bro, it's a Toy Story hat, not Pikachu hat."
See, now that was you testing to see if they knew what kind of hat it was.
I put in post when I was done. I said, "Oh," and I said, "Oh, did he have that Pikachu hat?" And then I said, "There's a line. There's like text that goes and says, actually, it's the green man hat, whatever, like green toy hat." And still, these commenters are after me. It's also a Logan Paul video, and those people are all children. that are saying, "Bro, yo, little bro, it's a Pikachu hat."
Little bro, yes, there you go.
Yo, man, yo, brah.
The Don't Bury the Lead audience is engaged.
Yeah, we'll take the little kids, but I know when
and they are. I don't mean engaged to be married. I mean engaged with the content, and they know their stuff.
It's true. What do you think here? You want to wrap this bad boy up?
I think it's about time to wrap up the cheap heat because it is kind of still heatish around here in South Jersey. It's
Absolutely,
been a neat end of summer.
Well, Dom, thanks so much for joining. A pleasure as always. Nick, thanks for hanging in there. We had a couple other people just watching and being quiet, which is always great too. So thanks, and we'll be here every Saturday night. We'll be recapping SmackDown. So thanks so much for your time, and have a great rest of